can. But I do remember in college, I had some friends who in which our friend group was kind of like the victim of, be at the mercy of their emotions. And if they were having
Mm.
a bad time, then we would have a bad time. And that's not to say that these individuals didn't experience some events that warranted that kind of emotional response from them. But I think that how do you get to the point where you can be the complete, like, how do you get to the point where you own your emotions versus your emotions own you?
Yeah, like I've definitely had experiences where, like you said, like if one person's having a bad day or a bad night, like everyone else has to also have a bad day or a bad night, you know? And like I personally, like I just don't appreciate like behavior like that because I think it's selfish and inconsiderate, you know? Like if you're going to hijack everyone else's night and experience because of your personal feelings about something, and it's not like it happens once, you know? It's like people who make that a pattern. Like that's when you know it's kind of a problem. Because of course, like maybe you just like get some bad news or you're going through something tragic and like you're just really upset and like you just have a bad night and then maybe like, you know, you kind of get in your friend's way or something like that night and it's okay. You know, that's totally understandable and your friends will be there for you and all of that. But it's like I've seen people who that's like it's like something that happens often and consistently, you know? It's not just like a one-time thing, it's like a behavioral pattern and that's when it's kind of like it's just an annoying personality trait. Like it is a personality trait where it's like and I think part of it also is just like maybe like attention seeking behavior. You know, it's like, oh, nobody's paying attention to me or something, and this is the only way I can get attention. So I'm just gonna like ruin everyone's night just because I want attention and I don't like care if anybody else has fun or not, you know? And it's like what? Like everyone's just trying to have a good time, you know? And it's like you're gonna ruin everyone's night continuously. Like what kind of like behavior or like personality trait is that? You know, I just don't admire it or appreciate it at all. Like it's just I don't know. I don't care for that.
Yeah,
Mhm,
and I guess kind of with that, it's a bit tricky in that, of course, like you said, an individual can be experiencing a particularly difficult time. And, maybe it's a prolonged period and it's years where they're truly affected by something. And so, in that case, right, there's like empathy to be had with that person. But, also, I think we both have experienced where sometimes there's individuals that it's truly just they expect their friends to be at their mercy and they expect to be able to dictate a night. They expect to be able to say when we'll do something and when we won't do something. And so when I was younger, it was a bit difficult for me
mhm,
to make the distinguishment between an individual that was, truly affected by something and having bad
mhm,
nights versus an
mhm,
individual that didn't really care about the enjoyment that their friends had, and they simply kind of wanted
mhm,
to dictate the night, or they had
mhm,
not good control of their emotions and would, simply
mhm,
use their emotions as a weapon, if that makes sense. It was
mhm,
difficult for me to distinguish that, and so I would give empathy towards an individual that was simply being selfish because
mhm,
I put their emotions and their issues on this pedestal, if that makes
mhm,
sense.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, and yeah, it's so like it's so nuanced and it's like it's so um like it's like barely there, you know? It's like the level of manipulation that you can't even like recognize it. And it happens a lot. Like I'll see like people who are kind of on the more like emotional side of things, like emotional, like impulsive, like whatever. Um, like take advantage of it and try to manipulate people and like manipulate people's kindness and like they know like how a good decent person would respond so they take advantage of that, you know, like oh like any good decent person would of course like you know give me empathy or compassion or pity if I just like break down crying, you know, like but I think like what one way for me to recognize it is like is it a one-time thing or is it a pattern? You know, is if it's a pattern and it's something that they regularly use to get attention in situations where they feel like they're not getting attention, then it's like a personality trait and they're definitely just like playing people. You know, they're like, oh, like or if they're dealing with like pushovers, for example, you know, there's like on the one hand, they can take advantage of people who are just kind people, or they can also take advantage of people that are pushovers and will just go along with what they say, you know, if they're like assertive enough, you know? So if they know like, oh, like I'm around people who aren't going to really push back in any way, like I can just do whatever I want and dictate how the night goes. So it's like a level of manipulation that's like barely there that you can barely even see it. But it is still manipulation and it's like manipulating people using like emotions basically. And you have to be somewhat emotionally intelligent to do that, you know? Like you can't do it, I think, if you aren't emotionally intelligent, but it's like and the person themselves might not even realize like they're doing it for that reason, you know? Like it's kind of like an unconscious underlying motivation and it's like I feel like I can maybe kind of like um sniff it out or like see it for what it is, but that person themselves might not know that they're manipulating other people in that way. Like that's just the way that
Mm.
they know how to get a response from people. So it's like their go-to, and maybe it's even unconscious for them, you know, it might not even be conscious for them, and they might not be doing it knowingly, like, oh, like with like bad intentions to like ruin people's night or anything. It's just like that's what they resort to when they feel like they don't have anything else to resort to.